The alarm on my wrist screamed before I even opened my eyes, and I already knew something had gone wrong. I was Daniel Foster, a soldier who had just survived 6 years of war against an alien fleet called the Corvette, and on the morning I was supposed to receive my final payment for that war, 3 armed guards stood outside my door instead of a payment officer. I opened the door slowly, my hands raised, and the tallest guard told me to follow him without any explanation. I asked him where my money was. He did not answer. He only repeated the word asset, and walked ahead of me through a hallway that smelled like burnt metal and old fear. We reached a large steel door, and when it opened, I saw a room filled with officers standing around a single chair. In that chair sat a woman unlike anything I had seen before. Her skin had a soft silver shine, and her eyes glowed like a quiet fire. She looked calm, but her calmness felt sharper than any weapon I had faced in the war. An officer named Gerald Whitmore stepped forward and told me that instead of my payment, I was being given her, a former Corvette officer, as my reward for my service. I told him this was not what I had signed up for. Money was the deal, not a person. Gerald ignored me and said the woman had special knowledge that could help our forces end future conflicts, and since she trusted no one else, I was the only one she agreed to work with. I looked at her, expecting fear or anger, but instead, she looked directly into my eyes, as if she had already decided something about me long before this meeting. Before I could argue further, a loud explosion shook the entire building, and the lights turned red. Alarms filled the hallway, and Gerald shouted that the base was under attack. I grabbed the woman's hand without thinking and pulled her toward the nearest exit, because staying still in that moment meant death. We ran through smoke-filled corridors as metal beams fell around us. She moved fast, faster than any human I had seen, dodging falling debris with perfect timing. I asked her name as we ran, and she said it was Vera. I did not have time to think about how strange this all felt, because 2 soldiers in unfamiliar armor appeared ahead of us, blocking our path. Vera pushed me behind a broken wall and whispered that those soldiers were not our allies. She said they were part of a hidden group inside the human forces, who wanted her dead before she could reveal something important. I asked her what she knew that was so dangerous, but she said there was no time to explain, only time to survive. I picked up a metal pipe from the ground, the only weapon I could find, and stepped out to face the soldiers. Vera moved beside me, calm and focused, guiding my movements with quick words. She told me exactly when to duck and when to strike, and within moments, both soldiers were knocked out and disarmed. I stood there breathing heavily, shocked at how precise her guidance had been. We continued moving through the base, avoiding cameras and locked doors, until we reached an old cargo elevator that led to the lower levels. Vera explained that she had studied this facility long before her surrender, because she knew a day like this might come. I asked her why anyone would want to kill a woman who had already given up her weapons and her fleet. She told me that some officers in the human military had secretly made deals with rogue Corvette commanders during the war, exchanging classified information for resources. She had discovered this betrayal before her surrender, and it was the real reason she came to our side, not to defect out of fear, but to expose the truth. As the elevator doors opened, we found ourselves in a dark underground hallway, filled with old machines and broken lights. Vera said this was the maintenance section of the base, rarely used and rarely watched. We moved quickly, listening for footsteps, and every sound made my heart pound harder than it ever had during actual combat. Suddenly, a voice echoed through hidden speakers, and I recognized it as Gerald's voice. He said he knew we were heading toward the old communication room, and he warned us that escape was impossible. I asked Vera if she trusted anyone else on this base who could help us, and she mentioned a technician named Oliver Bennett, who had helped her set up secret communication routes before this attack even began. We rushed toward the communication room, moving through narrow passages filled with steam and flickering lights. When we reached the door, it was locked, and alarms grew louder behind us. Vera pulled a small device from her uniform, something she had hidden even during her capture, and used it to override the lock in seconds. Inside the room, Oliver was already waiting, looking nervous but relieved to see us. He said he had prepared a hidden transmission line that could send proof of the betrayal directly to a neutral council outside military control. Vera handed him a small data chip she had kept hidden inside her collar this entire time, something no one had detected during her surrender. As Oliver began uploading the files, the door behind us exploded open, and armed soldiers rushed in, led by Gerald himself. He shouted that we were making a mistake, that exposing this information would destroy years of careful planning, meant to end the war faster. Vera stepped forward and said that ending a war through betrayal and secret deals was not victory. It was corruption hiding behind uniforms. Gerald raised his weapon toward her, but I stepped between them, refusing to let this moment turn into another loss after everything we had survived. I told him that soldiers like me fought for truth, not for hidden agendas built on lies. My words seemed to shake something in the other soldiers standing behind him, and a few of them slowly lowered their weapons. Oliver shouted that the transmission was almost complete, and Gerald, realizing he was losing control of the room, tried to rush toward the console to stop it. Vera moved faster than him, blocking his path with calm precision, using controlled movements that stopped him without causing serious harm. The remaining soldiers, seeing their commander overpowered without cruelty, chose not to intervene. Within seconds, the transmission finished, and a message confirmed that the information had reached the Neutral Council successfully. Gerald's face changed from anger to defeat, as he realized his secret plans were now exposed to authorities who could not be silenced or controlled. Guards from a different unit soon arrived, not to attack us, but to arrest Gerald and the soldiers loyal to his hidden plan. As the chaos settled, Vera turned to me, her glowing eyes calm once again, and thanked me for trusting her when trust seemed impossible. I told her that after everything we had just survived together, trust felt like the only reasonable choice left. She smiled, a small but genuine smile, the first I had seen from her since we met. Oliver stepped forward and said that with this evidence, the corrupt officers would face justice, and the peace agreement between humans and the remaining Corvette forces could finally move forward honestly. I realized then that my reward was never meant to be a person handed to me like an object. It was a partnership, formed through survival, honesty, and mutual respect. Vera looked around the damaged room and said that her people back home would need to know the truth as well, since some of them still believed humans could never be trusted. I told her that maybe our journey today was proof that trust could exist between our two worlds, built not through payments or rewards, but through shared danger and shared courage. As new officers arrived to secure the base and take statements, Vera stood beside me, no longer treated as a prisoner or a reward, but as an equal who had helped uncover a truth that could have stayed hidden forever. I finally understood why she had chosen me during her surrender. She had studied my actions during the war, and believed I was someone who valued truth over personal gain. Days later, official reports confirmed the corruption within certain military ranks, and Gerald, along with his allies, faced serious consequences for their actions. Vera was granted full recognition as a partner in the peace process, working directly with honest officials to rebuild trust between our species. I was offered my long-delayed payment, but for the first time, money felt less important than what I had actually gained. Vera and I continued working together, not as a reward and a soldier, but as two people who had survived chaos and chosen honesty over easy answers. Every mission after that day still carried tension, still carried danger, but none of it ever felt as personal as the moment we chose to stand together against corruption instead of walking away. In the end, I realized the real reward was never something handed to me in a room filled with officers. It was earned through fire, through fear, and through the simple decision to trust someone the world had told me to fear. Vera became more than an alien assigned to me. She became someone I respected completely, someone who reminded me that true partnership is never given, it is built. And as we stood together watching the sunrise over a base that had almost fallen apart that night, I understood that this was only the beginning of a much bigger story, one built on trust, between two very different worlds, trying to survive the same uncertain future together.